Okay, my friends. You are an eyewitness to a complete change in history, back to what history really was. And Velikovsky knew what history was, and he had a book called Worlds in Collision. This was 1950. He published this book. Here's the deal. Worlds in Collision was a book by one of the greatest heroes in the history of mankind, Immanuel Velikovsky, who was a friend of Einstein. This guy was no off-the-wall crazy guy. He published a book in 1950. The book postulates, no, it doesn't postulate, it was a compilation of all of the works from every antiquity around the world, from libraries, from museums, from all of the ancient texts. And he put it all together, and it said that in the 15th century BC, that's only 3,500 years ago, the planet Venus, which is now a planet, was ejected. It came out of Jupiter as a comet. And the ancient text said the feared god Jupiter gave birth to the fiery comet Venus that destroyed the Earth. It was a comet-like object. It passed near Earth. Now, here's what happened. He's not saying there was an actual collision, and I don't think there was. What happened was 7 days it approached Earth, intently bright, a comet brighter than hell, and it started cooking the Earth from a long distance, and it just kept cooking and cooking and cooking. By the time it got real close to our atmosphere, the concussion against our atmosphere was so grievous that it literally combusted, caught fire almost. Now, in addition to that, the compression of the oxygen and hydrogen is out in the gases of our atmosphere, compressed into H2O. So the hydrogens joined together with the oxygen and turned into water. Only it was boiling water. It came down as boiling water. And the Quran says the ovens of the deep opened, and all of the ovens of heat, everything. So anyway, the Earth cooked and boiled, and that's what created these mud fossils. That's what all this stuff is about. That's what my mud fossil work is. And Velikovsky didn't know about this. He didn't have access to the fact that Typhon is in the desert. There was no Google Earth back then. He said a whole bunch of stuff he had no clue about. But he just went by the ancient texts. And I have gone back to verify these things, and every single thing I can verify, literally 100%. Now, here's what happened. It was ejected as a comet-like object, passed near Earth, very close, and did the things I just said. The object allegedly changed Earth's orbit and axis. Possible, I can't say one way or the other. But they did say in the ancient texts, including the Bible, that the Earth stood still and all this. And that's what Velikovsky's talking about. He says, how could the Earth stand still? How could it go 2 days or whatever? He's got all of these documents from everywhere on the Earth. The ancient codexes in South America, same stories, exact same story, same time frames, the whole shooting match. So this is not just an accident that he came up with this, and he didn't just guess about this. No. It allegedly changed Earth's orbit and axis, causing innumerable catastrophes that are mentioned in early mythologies, all of them, and the religions from all around the world. And that is true. Now listen to this. The book has been heavily criticized as a work of pseudoscience and catastrophism. Many of its claims are completely rejected by the established scientific community, as they are not supported by any available evidence. Well, let me tell you something. I have evidence to support every single word he said. 100%. And guess what they did? This was on the bestseller list, this book, for 11 weeks in a row. And it was so destroyed by the academics that they forced the publisher to withdraw the book. That's the academics, and they're still with us today, the same ones. Listen to this. Every culture on Earth had the same stories. You look at the Indian, all the flying chariots and all, they all had the same story. The Worlds in Collision is a book of wars in the celestial sphere that took place in historical times. Only 3,500 years ago, approximately, these events unfolded, Venus and so forth. In these wars, planet Earth participated too. They were in between planets. Now let me just show you something. You think there was no wars in heaven? How did these body parts get there then? Why would space smell like seared steak, hot metal, and welding fumes? Because that's exactly what blood is. It's the same stuff that cooks off on your gas grill. And these particles cling to the suits of the spacewalkers. When they come back inside, they say it smells like a sirloin. Okay, now the thing to support battles in the heavens that they spoke about, well, let me tell you something. Get an anatomist, and I absolutely guarantee you they will know what this is. It is a tendon enthesis. These are the little grabbers that held. This was in flesh, this deep. Space was loaded with biology, and this, my friends, as I will show you very carefully, was landed on by the European Space Agency. They had a Philae lander, they called it. It landed on here, took samples of it, 100% organic, exactly the same chemistry that's in your body, in ferrous oxides and all the same stuff that's in your body. And all these little chutes here, those are the gases that are cooking off into space, because that's blood. There's blood in those. Those are blood vessels. That right there is an artery. That's a different, that's gigantic. I mean, this thing is absolutely huge. These are little tiny blood filters that come up and filter all the blood for the tendons, which doesn't take much blood. This, you see, doesn't gas off. There's nothing gassing off here because that's just nothing but an anchor. All right. Look at this little bundle right here very carefully. These little pinchy looking things. Let me dig in a little closer on that particular bundle. And take your time and look at that. This, I believe, is a stalk of muscle that came up to articulate this tendinous area, wherever it was. Here's the way this works. This is an anchor. Somewhere in your body it anchors a tendon, which comes out here. These are the tendon straps, which I will show you in a moment. Additionally, sometimes they will have bundles of muscle coming off here and off there and so forth, like on your fingers, because your fingers have to go all these different things like that. So they have all kinds of different little muscle fibers running here and there and tendons. But there's going to be an anchor. There's got to be an anchor for anything to pull against. So this is the anchor. Now, every single cell that's in your body requires oxygen, glucose, all kinds of different things. So that's where all of that, those little blood gases were shooting out, because they're little tiny blood vessels that feed up here to feed all this stuff. Now there was one that you saw, that big huge thing, and that is the artery, because you have to have one big source of blood to service everything, and then everything feeds off of that. So that's what that's all about. This right here is literally the eroded flesh. And when they took samples of it, it's exactly what it came out to be, exactly identical. The spectral analysis is identical to flesh. Now, let's look at the anatomical look in this. All right, there's another shot of 67p. You see that? I believe that is, it's biology, whatever it is. It's a tube of something, whether it's blood or it's a tendon stalk, I don't know. But this is the anchor ball. That's the tendon stalk coming up, and then it turns from the tendon into muscle. The muscle has eroded, or the muscle is very weak and goes away easily. And you end up with these anchor balls and tendons. Now, there's also a maro, which is a finger out there. This is on 67p. They call these dragon balls. Well, I'm going to tell you what they are. They are blood vessels that still have blood balls in them. And that's the thing that eroded or was shooting out that gigantic, huge plume of what they call coma. This is 40 meters. 40. This is 120 meters across at least. That's huge. That's 360 feet or more. And that's just the artery. These creatures were miles and miles and miles and miles tall. This whole thing, I think, is like 3 miles. Wait do you see it on top of Raleigh, North Carolina? You see that? That's exactly how an artery works. Blood passes through, and all these are little entrances for the blood vessels, so they can feed all the tissue that it passes by. And then there'll be a vein that will draw all that used up blood. All the good stuff is sucked out of it. It goes into the vein, back up to the heart, and pumps all through your organs to get cleaned up and new oxygen and all that stuff. All right, this is amazing. Look at the size of this thing now. These were battles in the heavens, and these are the body parts from the creatures that were slaughtered. And I mean, they must have been really slammed. Now, this is Raleigh, North Carolina. This goes back seven-ish years, so I can't remember exactly. I think it was like over 3 miles long. I'm almost certain. Now, remember this. Don't forget, this is the anchor. And we're going to get into the anatomical in a second. Now, from every anchor, literally every anchor in your body, there will be some form of a little tendonish thing that gives it some kind of just a little bit of pull so that it doesn't snap off of there when you pull against the anchor. So there's a little tendon. It's called tendon because it's under tension. And when they snap, they have a wrinkle zone. You notice that. When you see these fibers that I've shown you before, they're underneath this, which is the runoff. But those fibers, when they snap, they're under tension. They'll have a wrinkle zone. Anyway, up here is where the muscle is. Now, here's the deal. I'm going to explain it to you, and then we'll look at the anatomy. Every anchor has a little bit of tendon, and then it will go into muscle. Now, the muscle sometimes, like in your bicep, it's just muscle and connective tissue. But other muscle, like around a leg, the muscle will surround a bone or something like that. But I don't know where this was in the body, because there's hundreds of them in your body. Okay, I told you I'd show you the anatomical. Here it is. As I said, there's all kinds of different anchors in your body, and some of them run from muscles to flesh to, back and forth, and some of them have bones in them. And here's the deal. These are tendons. All right, these little strappy things. The red stuff is muscle. All right, this is muscle. These are tendons. You see these little white fibers, actually. Now, you have different attachments from bones to bones. They call it ligaments. You see ligament? You have a bone attached to another bone. That would be like this bone right here. And right in there, a ball in this here that would hold up to another one that would attach to it. All right, now, that's what a ligament is. Then you have just normal enthesis, which means they just lock in everywhere throughout your body. I'm not going to explain it. There's a lot to it. But some of it just lays in your flesh and pulls your flesh back and forth. And some of it pulls from bones to muscles and so forth. Now, here's one I have here that is this style right here. You see all those white fibers? Every one of those white fibers came down to one of these little balls. But it was a big ball as well. See that big ball? Inside of that big ball is all these little fibers. All right, and then that runs up and attached to something up here. I don't know what. This is just the way it came out. And there was a whole batch of these going together. And that's what they do. They lay right up against each other. And So anyway, these are the different styles of those balls and anchors, but they all have one thing in common. They all have a ball and then a strap. The ball and then a strap. All right, so that's what 67p is. Now, let's look at Omar Omaro, which is a finger. Okay, this is Omar Omaro, which is a huge finger. I highlighted some of the things I want you to pay attention to make it more obvious, and I'll take this away and I'll show you what it looks like without these little doodles. Now, what are we looking at? This is the tip of the finger. This little area here, like it looks like it has a little crust on there, that is literally the finger prints that are on here, that are the grip skin, the friction skin, the heavy duty skin that's on your fingertips. And I'll show you that in an anatomical, and I'll show you all the other stuff too. Now right here is what's called an apical tuft, and I have one here from one of my giant eroded fingertips, and this is what it is. It has all these little holes in there. It sits right on there with that little thing, blip, right on the tip. Now there's still one ball is embedded in here, but they all had little tendon fibers running down from them, so that this thing could pull. Like you could make your fingers do some serious stuff. There's some serious attachments right here. All right, now what is this? That is a tendon strap that comes down. It's anchored up here, and then it anchors into all these little holes. Remember I showed you all those little balls and straps? That's what this is. On the other side, this is where your finger wrinkles. On the other side, the same thing happens. They're attached here going this way. Then on the bottom, they're attached there. There's the vein, and here's the artery. Now, let me clean this up so it looks the way it looks in space. And the reason it is so perfectly seen in this picture is because they took literally thousands of pictures of this as it spun around in space, so they could see all of the shadows. That's the best deal, because then you have highlights of all the different angles, and they could see this was a different color than the flesh. That's a tendon. That's the artery, the vein. That's the artery side. This is where that apical tuft is. You see the little fibers coming out of them? Same thing that would happen with this. That is the grip skin, which is the friction skin. It's the heavy-duty skin, the cornified skin that's on your fingertip. These are all those little lock-in emplacements. And that lets your finger do all these kind of things. Right down here, those two right there, those are the tendons that run into your finger, you see, so you can go back and forth. And this runs right over the top of the knuckle here. That's your whole finger right up to there. All right, that's Omar Omaro. See, this is 67p. This is the test they did on what chemistry was there. Ferrous oxides. Those are what's in your blood. Hydrocarbons. That's what's in your blood. Sodium, hydrogen, silicon, all parts of body chemistry, and that's what they said. It's just 100% organic. That's because it was a body part. 67p. I'm not sure what that tendon antithesis was, but it was. That's what it is. If I was you, I would look into Immanuel Velikovsky deeply. He's got at least 4 books: Ages in Chaos, Ignatin, and Worlds in Collision, and these were all historical documented things. And here's what they say about him. Here's what Velikovsky arrived at all these things he was thinking about this way. Comparative mythology. Well, what is comparative mythology? He looked for concordances, which means the similarities in the myth and the written histories of unconnected cultures. They all said the same thing. They had no way of knowing what the other guy was saying, so they said what they saw. The other guy said what they saw. They were the same. all across the world, following a literal reading of their accounts, and exploits of planetary deities. He argues on the basis of ancient cosmological myths from places as disparate as India and China. That means they're not connected. Greece, Rome, Assyria, Sumer. For example, ancient Greek mythology asserts that the goddess Athena sprang from the head of Zeus. Now, what else did he find? Velikovsky identifies Zeus, whose Roman counterpart was the god Jupiter, as the planet Jupiter, and Athena, the Roman Minerva, with the planet Venus. This myth, along with others from ancient Egypt, Israel, Mexico, etc., they all had the same story, are used to support the claim that Venus was expelled as a comet and then changed to a planet after contact with a number of members of our solar system. And I believe we were one. We took an indirect hit, but very close. Mars was destroyed. Okay, I have dozens and dozens of videos about Mars being exactly as Earth is, only it's dead now. Earth still has some water, still has some life, but very little. Mars is just dead. But it's all exactly the same stuff, identical. You see that? That's the Mars crab. That's the same thing that I showed you is on Comet 67P. It's an artery, and all these little legs go into the side, and that's where all the Dragon Balls show up. Now, down here is this is called sarcomere. These little blocks are sarcomeres. They pull together. These were muscle. That blood-fed muscle. The exact same thing we have on Earth, identical. It's all over Earth, all over Earth. And these are the Mars, let's see what else we have. Mars blueberries. These are up on Mars. They're everywhere, thousands and billions of them. It's the same thing as the Moki marbles here on Earth. And here's the Mars Morse code. Where's that? Mars Morse code. This is nothing but interstitium. Same thing we have here on Earth, only this is like sandblasted. This is a different erosion than we have because we have water erosion. This is just windswept, sandblasted, but it still has the same pattern. Let me show you. Okay, this is what your body is made of. It has to be able to come back to where it was before it stretched. These balls are the anchors. This is like micro shot of it. And here's what they look like in all of this floppy stuff. These are little anchor balls. And that's them. Now, where are they on Earth and Mars? Well, let's take a look and see if we can find some. Ooh, there's some right there. On Earth, these are the Moki marbles in Utah. They're all over the place. This is the basement layer. Then there was the interstitium layer. And then there was a skin up above. All of that eroded away. Well, here in the United Kingdom, Hunstanton Beach or Hunstanton Cliffs, something like that. There's that erodible flesh that is gone from here. Here's the balls laying here, and it's turned into mud, all that stuff. This is on the coastline. It's just washing away. And here's the skin at the top, which is gone from this. Everything is different than you thought, 100% different. And until it starts to get talked about, it'll stay 100% different, and people laugh at you. But you talk about it, that's all. I've been doing it for 12 years. I've been laughed at for 12 years. It doesn't matter to me. You laugh as all you want. Because when you're right, you're right. And we are right. Okay, my friends, you know all the evidence I have. It's just undisputable. This was one of the first ones that we really had investigated, Yale, and had it taken down to University of Texas and CAT scan and all this stuff. They just dismissed everything, wouldn't even speak to me. It ended up going virtually legal because of the way I was treated. And this head there's a ferrous oxide, which is blood coming out of it, the red and the black. His head is caved in. The nose is coming off, and this is just somebody carved this. I said, who would carve the flesh coming off the guy's nose and the cartilage underneath like that? Who would do that? Plus, this is a cap. It's actually a cap. You can slide a playing card up between the cap and the guy's head. And this was dismissed within 20 seconds. by the History Channel on TV, live on TV. It was presented to supposedly an expert geologist or archaeologist, whatever you want to call him. And within 20 seconds, it's dismissed. And he said, oh, it's absolutely carved, no question about it. That's it, case closed. 20 seconds from the time he saw it to the time it was over. And I can guarantee you that is real. And that was Jim Burchell and Arlie Caudle. I believe Arlie was the one that found it in the riverbank in a rural area in Kentucky somewhere. But this is the kind of opposition I met from the days, and I still had CAT scans, I had DNA tests, I had all my stuff was totally verified as well. So I wrote a book about this. Because the same thing that happened to Velikovsky happened to me for many, 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 many years. All right, I'm going to leave it at this for today. This is nothing more than layers of tissue. That's not just accidentally happened there. They're drilling into it to look to see what the heck is going on here. Why do we have this? Now Mars again, and they're up there again with the this is Curiosity, still working, and they are trying to figure out what's going on with all of these different crazy looking formations. Well, until they take it for life, they'll never figure it out. And until they talk to me, they're never going to figure it out because they have to talk to the only people that will talk to them is their friends. And their friends won't talk to them if they talk to me. I guarantee you that for a fact. This was just today came out. And this has been going on for years and years and years. All I can say is it's a disgrace what I have seen in the educational system. I don't want to be nasty, but I mean, what do you say? You say, oh, they're just not thinking. No, they're hiding from what they can't miss. If you can't miss something, then you're hiding. All right, and I wrote that book long ago because of that, and it's still hiding. Now, it's on Amazon. I think it's like 99 cents. I had to put something on. I never made a penny on it. I don't want to make any money on it. I just want Velikovsky to be known that he was not wrong. He was not wrong, and he was destroyed. And if you talk to your professors right now, they'll tell you, oh, that guy's crazy, don't listen to him. And they'll say, don't talk to Roger, because he's crazy too. And if you say, well, wait a minute, what about this? They'll tell you, oh, you're crazy now too. And so you're afraid to talk. All right? This is what we've ended up with. This is a virtual slave society by fear. And it's held over by our authorities. In my realm, it is. You know, and if I don't have anything to lose, so I don't care. But the people that, you know, your job depends on it, your income depends on it. Well, obviously, you're going to go for the self-interest. I don't blame people. I really don't. But if this was brought into an open format that could be talked about openly, that's the key. You start talking about it, and they will put you right in a corner. You're done. People tell me this every day. I say I can't talk to anybody about it. I agree. I've been in it for 12 years, but now I see that crack has started to widen. In the beginning, there's not a single person, not my family, not friends, nothing. I lost really virtually everybody. And you will. You'll end up alone, but smart. Well, why should you say the same thing? You know, if there's somebody, anyway. I've been fighting this war for a very long time. And all I want to do is just to be heard and seen and examined. Now, I am going to be doing something with Michael Tellinger. I believe it's going to be Thursday morning, East Coast time. I believe it was going to be like 10 o'clock in the East Coast of the United States time. I'll see if I can put something up on another link, a link to the meeting or whatever it's going to be. I'm not even sure how it's going to go down, but because I'm not real good at this stuff, but I think Michael is. So anyway, we'll be talking and answering questions. I hope, and I want to do this. I want a moderator. Somebody said they would moderate, and I have Zoom. I have a Zoom professional type where you can go for a long time. You don't have to worry about this or that. So that's what I need, though, is somebody that knows how to work it and could be a moderator. And then we can have questions and answers. And open this up to society. And have people, because this not only accounts for what you're thinking today, this may have some serious consequences on eternity. Who the hell knows at this point? We've discounted all this stuff, and, you know, religion has been put in one box, mythology in another box, crazy people in another box, intellectuals in a box that controls all the other boxes. That's got to end.